Today is a WRAL weather alert day due to this front that's moving into our area. It'll bring thunderstorms that could affect the evening commute. We'll walk through the timeline.
Arrest warrant shooting. A man is dead after the U.S. Marshal attempts to serve a warrant in connection with the murder. What happened moments before the suspect turned the gun on himself?
Plus, remembering the Pope, nations across the world have declared states of mourning in honor of Pope Francis. The plans for a final farewell ahead.
Today is a WRAL weather alert day. A cold front will bring storms this afternoon and evening, and the evening commute could be tricky. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Renee Chu.
And I'm Jeff Hogan. Thanks for joining us. Good to have you along here. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center right now with a look at the timeline for these storms' arrival.
It's likely to be mid to late afternoon and then lasting into the evening when we'll see the thunderstorm. So be prepared for that to have an effect on the evening commute. We're talking about storms that pop up across our area, and a few of those could produce some severe weather in terms of some wind damage or some hail. Let's take a look at our severe threat. It does cover most of the viewing area. Isolated wind damage would be our biggest threat, but this is not going to be a widespread severe event. We've had a good bit of sunshine today, so there's a lot of warmth, a lot of energy in the atmosphere for that front to work with when it comes through. Running a little bit slower with this newest run of the computer models. At 3 o'clock, there might be just a stray sprinkle, but it's closer to 5 o'clock before we start to see some significant rain. That's going to be mainly from Durham northward. But once we get to 6 o'clock, it really begins to fill in, and it continues to do so into the 7 o'clock hour. So this may be more sort of the second half of the evening commute that folks are more affected by this. As we get into the evening, we may have more cells start to develop in our south and eastern counties, which could linger up until around 11 o'clock or midnight. So the greatest chance around the triangle for strong to severe thunderstorms will be between 6 and 9 p.m. Coming up, we are looking at the potential for more of this. It may be on repeat every afternoon for the rest of the week, all the way through Saturday. So we'll talk more about the timeline for later in the week and how much rain we could see total coming up.
You can stay ahead of the storm by downloading the WRAL News app. You can sign up for push alerts and get all the latest information sent right to your phone. WRAL meteorologists will be watching the weather closely and bringing you any updates. A man is dead after U.S. Marshals attempted to serve a warrant in connection with a murder, and Sky 5 flew over that scene earlier this morning.
It happened around 8 in Nash County along Crabtree Lane near Castalia. The sheriff's office says the suspect shot himself after running from law enforcement. WRAL's Chelsea Donovan joins us live from Nash County with what else she's learned. Chelsea.
Yeah, Jeff and Renee, 4 hours later, still a very active scene here in Nash County. We're about 5 miles from Nashville in Castalia on Crabtree Lane. You can see U.S. Marshal Services still here, as well as Nash County investigators. I want to have you center your attention beyond that white van. We understand that is a funeral service here to pick up the body, and I just met and talked with the medical examiner that is also here. This suspect ran and entered the woods behind that van, and right now they're still working to identify the body and notify next of kin. So still a very active scene 4 hours after this happened. Now let's show you some video of Sky 5 in the area deep into the woods. Now, according to Sheriff Keith Stone with Nash County, the suspect ran out of his car into the woods before shooting himself in the head while the U.S. Marshals were trying to serve a warrant. The Marshals did not fire a shot. No law enforcement officers were injured. Now, we understand the man was being served a warrant for a murder case out of New York, according to the sheriff. They said the man also had an outstanding warrant for not fulfilling his parole or probation after a stay in prison. Now, we talked to a neighbor who left before the shooting and came back to his house, which was lined with authorities.
When I came in, I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on? And then all these deputies.
Still so many unanswered questions. Obviously, we want to know why this suspect was here in Nash County. Obviously, a name so we can glean more information about that person. We believe a lot of these questions will be answered at 1:45 when Sheriff Keith Stone with Nash County plans to update the public at a 1:45 press conference. For now, we're live in Nash County. Chelsea Donovan, WRAL News.
We sent you this push alert to your phones as soon as we learned about the investigation. Get the WRAL News app to be the first to know when breaking news happens.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, we are following some breaking news out of Zebulon. We've just gotten confirmation from the Zebulon commissioner that the assistant town manager has stepped down. Now, you might remember just last week, the Zebulon town manager resigned, citing a serious personnel matter. He was appointed in December, so he wasn't on the job very long. He says something unethical and inappropriate happened. He was the town manager after serving as the project manager for the Zebulon Public Works Department. So that new information right now, the assistant town manager in Zebulon now stepping down. We are working to get more information on this. As soon as we have that, we'll bring it to you from the live center.
Thanks, Michelle. We have a live look at the Vatican right now. There are 60 cardinals who met today to decide the next steps after the death of Pope Francis. There are more on the way as well. And this all comes as the Pope's body is in the chapel of the Santa Marta residence at the Vatican. Francis' body is expected to be transferred to St. Peter's Basilica tomorrow morning for worshipers and the public to pay their respects. His funeral will be held Saturday morning. Tom Yamas has more details about the preparations underway for that.
The ancient rituals following the death of a pope now in motion. The arrival of cardinals gathering to finalize funeral details, and eventually the conclave, where a successor will be chosen. Overseeing it all, the Carmalengo, American Cardinal Kevin Farrell, hand-selected by Pope Francis. He and other cardinals were on hand as they sealed the doors to the papal apartment using a red ribbon and wax, certifying the death of the Pope. The Vatican also releasing these images, the first sight of the Pope in his coffin at a private ceremony for close friends and family in the chapel of the building where he lived. The Pope's coffin set to be transferred to St. Peter's Basilica on Wednesday afternoon, ahead of the public funeral this Saturday. The Vatican confirming the Pope's cause of death in a statement: stroke and irreversible heart failure. The pontiff also suffering a coma. In his final testament, Pope Francis confirming his wish to be buried in the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore.
This is where Pope Francis will be buried. It's where he came before and after every papal trip to pray. And now Catholics will come here to pray to him.
But first, the faithful will pay their respects at St. Peter's and remember the man who taught the world by his example.
He always wanted to be with his people and inspiring us.
It's Tom Yamas reporting.
The Holy Name of Jesus Cathedral in Raleigh held its first Mass since Pope Francis's death. Dozens of people worshiped at the cathedral this morning and paid their respects. People from across the Triangle are honoring the Pope's life and legacy. Madison Geist is one of them. She says Pope Francis was able to connect with younger generations because of his progressive views.
How he was being super progressive in the Catholic Church. He was changing things for the better. And I just felt connected with him, and I wanted to come pay my respects this morning.
Another Mass is now underway at Sacred Heart Church in Raleigh. The next Mass scheduled at Holy Name of Jesus Cathedral is tomorrow morning at 7.
And we are getting ready here in the WRAL Live Center. Of course, many people paying tribute to Pope Francis. We do have a live look in Italy right now, but Italy has declared a 5 days of national mourning through Saturday. Argentina, where Francis hailed from, will observe 7 days of mourning. Also, Spain, Cuba, India, and Lebanon also declaring 3 days of mourning as well. We're also learning who is and who isn't attending the funeral that's happening on Saturday. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump, they will be attending, along with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and French President Emmanuel Macron. We do know that Russian President Vladimir Putin will not be there for the funeral on Saturday. And Kensington Palace also just released a statement saying the Prince of Wales will attend the Pope's funeral on behalf of the King. Also, this afternoon, Pope Francis, we're learning, describes death as the beginning. It's in a text that will be published in Italy this week. He said death is not the end of everything. It is the beginning of something. Of course, a lot coming out about Pope Francis. We will continue to monitor it here in the Live Center.
Also, other news we are following for you this noon. Classroom temperatures could change under a cost-saving suggestion being floated to the Wake County School Board. The school board will discuss the idea during its work session this afternoon. The proposal would raise school temperatures by 1 degree in the warmer months and lower temperatures by 1 degree in the colder months. The school system has also put together estimates for reducing teacher mentors, another idea to lower costs. The district is looking to cut about $18 million, which would be less than 1% of its operating budget, as it expects costs to rise next year. Emergency cell phone access is also up for discussion at the Wake School Board today. The board wants to restrict cell phone access, but plans to talk about making exceptions for emergencies. One suggestion would define an emergency as a situation with immediate physical danger. Another suggestion would allow school officials to decide whether it's an emergency when a student asks to use their phone. The board plans to also talk about whether phones would need to be turned off during class and how phones could be confiscated. You can read more about this and follow our coverage today at the education section of WRAL.com.
Today, the NC Central University Board of Trustees will hold a special meeting. They plan to approve a designer to renovate the university theater. This meeting comes after 5 people were arrested during a protest on campus. 4 out of the 5 people were affiliated with NCCU. The group was rallying for more on-campus housing and better living conditions. Housing improvements are not yet on the agenda for today or the board's next meeting in June. North Carolina football is going overseas for the first time. The Tar Heels will kick off the 2026 season against TCU in Ireland. The schools will face off in the Aer Lingus College Football Classic on August 29th in Dublin. It was originally scheduled for September 5th in Fort Worth, Texas. UNC opens this season and the Bill Belichick era at home against TCU on September 1st. Mpox was found in wastewater samples from a sewage plant in Greenville. The samples from the plant were tested in late March and early April. The test suggests that someone in Greenville during that time had the virus. There are 2 genetic types of the Mpox virus. The type found in Greenville's wastewater was clade 1.
Next at noon, fire forces evacuation, how passengers handled a fire on their plane before even taking off.
Also, Earth Day underwater. The bayou below sea level facing flooding today.
Plus, danger from debris, how wildfires in western North Carolina are being fueled by what Hurricane Helene left behind.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
The FAA is investigating after an engine fire forced passengers to evacuate this Delta flight in Orlando. There's one witness that shot this video showing the moment the flames shot out. The FAA says the plane was pushing back from the gate before departure. Nearly 300 passengers and crew members were on that plane. Some people say they had to exit off a ladder.
We didn't get on the slide. That's the thing. We never got on the slide. We went through the second back door where the slide didn't work. We had to wait till they brought stairs, mechanical stairs to the...
So not everybody was evacuated from the slide.
And no injuries were reported, though. The cause of the fire has not been determined yet.
Israeli citizens are protesting against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government. Thousands of Israeli protesters flooded the streets in Tel Aviv. They are calling for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to resign and for a new hostage deal to be made with Hamas. Hostage family members and demonstrators say they are willing to accept a peace deal with Hamas, even if it means removing Israeli forces from Gaza. Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil was denied a temporary release to attend the birth of his child. His wife gave birth to their son yesterday, while Khalil is at an immigration detention facility in Louisiana. She says a request to ICE that would have allowed him to attend the birth and meet their son was denied. Khalil was arrested for his role in pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University, where he was a graduate student. Khalil is a legal permanent resident, and his wife is a U.S. citizen.
Jury deliberations will continue in the trial of Lori Vallow Daybell. She's accused of conspiring with her brother to kill her former husband, Charles Vallow. Vallow Daybell is representing herself. She has denied accusations her husband's murder was a ploy to gain insurance money. She also claimed her brother killed her husband in self-defense.
A U.S. city that's below sea level is one of several recovering from flooding. Amy Kiley explains which other flood-ravaged areas of the country are in high alert after recent storms.
This is insane. On this Earth Day, parts of the U.S. are dealing with ongoing flood risks after deadly storms.
I'm in a truck, SUV, and the water is like almost halfway up my doors. It's crazy out here.
This video is from the New Orleans area, where some evening commuters had to take refuge on higher ground yesterday.
Welcome to Nola River. As y'all can see, this is going on. I've been stuck here for like 30 minutes.
We see all the cars, look around.
Some who ventured out appear to have encountered difficulty, including stalls and at least one crash.
When's your shift supposed to end?
5 o'clock.
You think you're going to get home?
9 o'clock.
The Army Corps of Engineers says it took advantage of the high water to test a spillway north of the city.
We're expecting it to crest at 16 and a half feet on April 30th. We do this when the river's high enough. As you all can see behind me, the river's pushing through the structure itself, and that's very close to when we actually operate, how conditions are.
Flooding also in parts of the Houston area yesterday. In Oklahoma, several people are dead after weekend storms. They include 2 children and their mothers who were swept away in floodwaters. Officials say dozens of others required high water rescues. I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
A lot of water, huh?
It is. I mean, we could see storms this afternoon, some strong to severe, but Elizabeth, we're not expecting any flooding. At least that's not a huge risk today.
It's not. As we get through time, though, we're going to see, of course, afternoon thunderstorms every afternoon all the way up through Saturday. And if we have storms developing in the same place over and over again, we might have some minor flooding, but certainly nothing like what they saw. Taking a look at what's happening, of course, for today, this is a look at what's happening around town today in Durham, Raleigh, and Fayetteville, 81. 83 to 87. Let's go over and take a look at our WRAL weather alert day if we can. We're tracking the storms. We've got a severe weather threat. It's a level 1 out of 5. Our localized wind, of course, damage is looking like what we'd see, and we'll go to the timing. Let's see if we can go over and take a look at that other system where we're looking at weather for today. That's going to be, sorry, a little inside baseball. We need to go over to weather 3 if we can do that. There we go. All right. So our severe threat, again, is a level 1 risk. That timing is going to be in the afternoon from say around 2 o'clock to around 10 o'clock. We do have that level 1 risk for severe storms, which means that our chance for severe storms is just isolated. Isolated severe storms, limited in duration and intensity, is the definition of a level 1 risk. And so it's a low risk. Of course, as you go up in risk, you have a much better chance. But it's certainly a possibility that a few of these storms could reach severe criteria. Looking at some rain, mainly in the mountains and the foothills, it's been fairly slow moving, which is not surprising. This front's going to move in and stall over us and bring us a chance of scattered storms each afternoon all the way up until Saturday. You can see a little bit of that rain now north of the Triad and up toward Danville and Roanoke, Virginia. So we're going to start to see this first in our northwestern counties, but it's likely to be another several hours before we see it there. Here's a look at Futurecast, and right now that rain is up to the north. By the time we get to 3 or 4 o'clock, we're starting to see it around Roxborough and Durham, and then between 5 and 6 it starts to move in around say Raleigh and the very heavily traveled parts of our area during the evening commute. As we get into the later part of the evening, it moves into our eastern counties. Here's a look at RDU. We finally clouded up a bit. It was a nice sunny start to the morning with a few clouds sprinkled in. Still, even though we're seeing a lot of cloud cover, it's warm out there, 79 degrees, and our dew point is relatively comfortable at 62. Our high temperature is 83 in 83 in Raleigh, 81 in Durham, and 87 in Fayetteville this afternoon. Those rain chances just keep on coming. That front's going to stall over us and bring us a chance of rain Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then another front comes through on Saturday. That'll be the best chance of rain that we see all week, but that front should sweep through and dry us out just in time for Sunday. Our temperatures remain mild, upper 70s to low 80s, even with that chance of afternoon thunderstorms each afternoon. Our overnight lows are likely to be comfortable in the low to mid 60s. It is Earth Day today, of course, and there are some Earth Day celebrations also. The Canes are looking at round 2, their second game of the playoffs. We'll talk about what you might see if you're headed out there to tailgate, and I'll show you how much rain we could total up between now and Saturday. Coming up.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Leadership concerns today on WRAL News at 4. The questions we're asking and the answers we're getting into why so many people are quitting their leadership roles in the town of Zebulon.
And a growing wildfire risk. Right now, nearly 1,400 acres are burning in western North Carolina, creating more troubles for the region after Helene. Tonight at 6 on WRAL, hear from a man who lost everything in the flames and why experts say more homes could be at risk. Plus, still ahead this noon, Uber is in hot water. The FTC is suing the rideshare company for deceptive practices. Why you should check your account.
Population planning. The city of Raleigh is hosting a meeting about the changing city. How you can voice your opinions. Five on Your Side is monitoring today's business headlines. The U.S. Department of Justice and Google are facing off in a new antitrust suit. The case is attempting to block Google from using AI in searches, claiming it could further extend its control. The DOJ also wants Google to sell its Chrome browser and stop exclusive agreements with device makers. Witnesses from companies like OpenAI will testify on how Google's dominance harms competition. Google plans to appeal any ruling. Walgreens has agreed to pay the government $300 million to settle an opioid lawsuit with the Justice Department. The pharmacy is accused of having illegally filed millions of invalid prescriptions for controlled substances, then sought payment for many of those invalid prescriptions through federal health care programs. If Walgreens is sold, merged, or transferred before 2032, the company would owe the government an additional $50 million.
President Donald Trump met with major retailers, including Walmart, Target, Home Depot, and Lowe's. Yesterday, they were discussing how tariffs are likely to raise the cost of goods they import. Big chains rely heavily on imports, and tariffs, including 145% on China, could add more strain on consumers already feeling the pinch of inflation. More than half of Walmart and Target's imports are from China. Walmart, Target, and Home Depot all said in statements the meeting was productive. Federal Trade Commission is suing Uber, accusing it of signing up users to Uber One without their consent. Uber One costs $9.99 a month and offers discounts on ride-hailing and food delivery. The FTC says Uber falsely claims users would save about $25 a month and deceived them about how easy it is to cancel. An Uber spokesperson says the company doesn't sign up or change people without their permission.
Amazon is pushing some vendors on price hikes. According to the Wall Street Journal, Amazon has cost support agreements in place to ensure it makes consistent margins on products it buys from vendors and sells to customers. Those who tried to charge more for items since President Trump's tariffs went into effect are finding they're responsible for paying the company to make up the difference. This helps Amazon keep prices low while shifting the burden of tariffs onto its suppliers. The price of gold jumped to a new record high today. A company that tracks financial data says gold surged to a new record of just over $3,500 per troy ounce. Now, troy ounce is a unit, a measure to weigh precious metals, which equals about 31 grams. Gold has risen over 31% so far this year. It's considered a safer financial bet amid economic uncertainty.
Wake County school leaders will revisit remote learning policy today. The changes that could reduce the amount of Saturday school makeups.
Plus, work zone crashes. 47 people were killed in North Carolina work zones last year. The consequences you could face if found speeding near road projects. Now here's a look at your winning lottery numbers.
Earth Day on this Tuesday, and also today makes it a WRAL Weather Alert Day.
And a little later, we could see strong to severe storms with possibly damaging winds. Elizabeth Gardner is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center tracking this front.
Here's the setup. We have a front that's moving into our area, and then it will stall. And that's going to be the focusing mechanism for showers and thunderstorms this afternoon, but not just today, all the way through Friday, and then another front on Saturday. So we're moving into a much wetter pattern. The stationary front is here, where you see the red, blue, and you can see plenty of rain along it and some thunderstorms in the mountains. That is beginning to weaken as it moves eastward. But here's a look at dual Doppler 5000 radar, and you can see north of the Triad some rain. So it's going to start off really in our northern counties north of I-85 and then start to drift down into the triangle as we get through the evening commute. Mid-afternoon through evening is when we'll likely see the bulk of it. Our severe threat is minimal. Just a few isolated storms could produce some wind damage. But again, with the rain, we'll have some impacts for the evening commute. There is a level 1 risk for severe storms, but again, our threat is minimal for today with that level 1 risk. So for Futurecast, again, we're going to start to see that rain that's up near Danville right now start to drop in on us as we get into the mid to late afternoon. Some rain around Durham and even into Wake County at 5 o'clock, but it just continues to drop southward and on down into our southeastern counties as we get past dinner time and up until around 10 or 11 o'clock. We're going to put this pattern on repeat all the way through Saturday, so I'll show you how much rain we can see total coming up.
Covering Wake County, school leaders want to restrict access to cell phones for students, but today they will be considering what to do in emergency situations. WRAL's Laura Levine explains what options are on the table.
We know the school board is working on a district-wide cell phone policy, but happening today, they're going to look at closer terms of actually when students could use these phones in the classroom. Wake's draft policy says phones must be turned off, silenced, or in airplane mode. Those are the three options that were listed for the board to eventually pick one. If phones are turned off, students can't use them for location services, and other devices such as smartwatches or Bluetooth headphones wouldn't be able to connect to their cell phones. But the question is, what happens when there's an emergency? WRAL's education reporter Emily Walkenhorst explains the options the board is considering on how to define just that.
One option would be an emergency is something in which, a student is in immediate physical danger and they need to be able to contact a parent. Another option would be, well, what if we gave discretion to school employees? So the student would have to ask permission to use their phone, and a school employee would decide if it's an emergency or not.
School leaders will also discuss when and how to confiscate a device and the extent to which staff may not be liable for damages or missing phones. The school board is set to discuss and iron out all of these details when they meet here today at 2:30 p.m. Laura Levine, WRAL News in Cary.
The Wake School Board will also revisit remote learning today. The school system is considering an updated remote instruction plan for learning during bad weather days. This year, most year-round schools had to hold school on Saturdays twice because the school system wasn't prepared to implement its remote learning plan. The school board would like to change that for the next school year. We will keep you up to date on all the important discussions from the Wake County School Board. Look for updates on WRAL News from 4 to 7:30 this evening.
I'll give you this live look right now at the Vatican, the people who have come to pay their respects. Cardinals are at the Vatican today. They're going through details of Pope Francis' funeral. It is the first meeting of the Cardinals since the Pope's death.
This morning, the Vatican announced the Pope's funeral will be on Saturday at 10 a.m. Tomorrow morning, the Pope's body will be transferred to St. Peter's Basilica. The Vatican says his official cause of death was a stroke that led to heart failure. We have a guide to the traditions, the period of mourning, and the timeline to select a new pope. You'll find it on the homepage of WRAL.com.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center following some breaking news out of India. At least 24 tourists are dead after a gunman opened fire on them. It happened in a very popular town in the Himalayas. A tourist at that scene said chaos broke out after the sudden attack. Everybody started running and screaming. Reports suggesting a large number of tourists were injured or killed. They were taken to hospitals right now, a lot of them in critical condition. The army and police have been deployed to that scene. India's prime minister speaking out, saying the perpetrators would be brought to justice. Nobody has claimed responsibility for this attack, but again, at least 24 tourists in India are dead.
Terrible scene there. Michelle, thanks for the update. This week is National Work Zone Awareness Week. The State Department of Transportation is holding a news conference this afternoon at the state fairgrounds. The agency wants to remind drivers to pay attention and avoid distractions when entering a work zone. According to state data, 47 people were killed in North Carolina work zones last year. In the news conference, a worker shared his experience witnessing an accident in a work zone.
I was just watching what was going on, and we was putting the lane closure up on the other side of the road, and we was watching the workers come through, and we just automatically seen the car hit each other, and the truck turned over. So it just happened so fast.
In North Carolina, speeding in a work zone comes with a minimum fine of $250.
A growing wildfire threat is sparking new concern in western North Carolina, months after Hurricane Helene tore through the region. Right now, nearly 1,400 acres are burning in McDowell County. Storm debris from Helene is fueling wildfires and making it harder for crews to keep up. Fire officials say this spring is shaping up to be one of the worst in decades.
Experienced roughly 822,000 acres that saw some sort of damage, timber damage. And so in some cases we have entire mountainsides that have been completely blown down. And so all of that fuel is working in favor of wildfires. It's fresh fuel for the fire to consume. Fires are burning hotter and spreading quicker.
With more than 100 vacancies in the North Carolina Forest Service, some counties don't have a single full-time firefighter on the ground. Tonight at 6, hear from a man who lost everything in the flames and why experts say more homes could be at risk.
Carolina Hurricanes will be on the Lenovo Center ice tonight for Game 2 of their opening round series against New Jersey. Still have time to get a seat for this one. The team says a limited number of tickets still remain for tonight's game. Puck drop is at 6 o'clock, and the team is encouraging folks to get out there early. Hey, maybe tailgate before the storms come through. Half-price parking is being made available from 1 to 3 p.m., so the lot opens in about 20 minutes.
A SpaceX spectacle. The amazing photos WRAL viewers captured of last night's rocket launch.
And don't take no for an answer. If your health insurance refuses to cover a medical bill, the best way to appeal it.
Now that the weather is warming up, more and more people are expected to visit the western North Carolina. The expected boost in visitors comes as that area is still recovering from Hurricane Helene. Since the recent boost in tourism, officials have seen a recent increase in car crashes with wildlife. A spokesperson with the Wildlands Network says reducing these types of crashes will benefit the state and help protect wildlife in the area.
Just knowing that reducing wildlife vehicle collisions not only helps with that driver safety issue, but it protects important critical wildlife populations that we have here. And it also saves money for the state of North Carolina and the people in the long run because we have less collisions.
Drivers are reminded to slow down and pay attention to their surroundings.
If you're looking for a way to celebrate Earth Day this year, you might want to consider buying some plants for your house. They are good for the environment, and they can also help improve your mental health. Psychologist Susan Albers says houseplants can provide oxygen and remove toxins from the air, which can help your brain work more effectively. If you're worried about not having a green thumb, start small with a low-maintenance plant for your windowsill or desk, maybe like a little cute succulent.
I have one on my desk.
Yeah.
It's removing toxins from the air. Billing battle. If you notice something not quite right with your medical bill, don't let it slide. Coming up, steps that you can take to get your money back.
A National Institute of Health survey found as many as 66% of people who file for bankruptcy blame medical bills. That's why it's so important to know your rights if you think a medical bill you got is wrong. 5 on your sides, Keely Arthur shows you the steps that you can take to help you hold on to more of your money.
If your insurance denies medical coverage, that's not always the final decision. You can appeal, but only 1% of us do. The first thing you need to do is contact the provider.
And so you go to them and find out why. What's the reason? What are the codes that are either missing or that were there, or how is it categorized that led to the denied claim? They'll help you because they want to get paid as well.
On the insurance side, when you get a notice of denial, that should include your appeal rights. Look through those to figure out what your insurer's process for an appeal is. Know the different levels of appeals allowed, whether there are any time limits, and make sure to keep any documents related to your medical care. From there, connect with the provider and the insurer to figure out if the denial can be overturned. If you need more help, the North Carolina Department of Insurance's Smart NC program helps people with their appeals for free. Or you can always call Keely. Keely Arthur, 5 on your side.
This spring has been one of the warmest on record, and that's not a fluke. Meteorologist Chris Michaels shows us how spring has warmed in North Carolina and the 3 reasons why we care about that.
So here are the 3 big reasons why we do care about a warming spring. I think the first of which you can obviously tell would be a longer lasting allergy season. Warmer air at times can fuel more wildfires, and we've seen that play out over the course of the spring, especially in the western part of the state. But warmer air implies more water vapor, which at times can fuel stronger thunderstorms and even the chance for some flooding. Now, the thing about spring is it is not the quickest warming season. Climate Central says that winter is the quickest warming here in North Carolina, but spring and Earth Day included are warming here in the Raleigh-Durham metro, also in North Carolina and in the United States, ranging between 2 to 4 degrees warmer than it was maybe, say, 5 decades ago. In terms of this April, it has so far been the warmest on record at RDU, the 4th warmest on record in Fayetteville, and this spring as a whole since March the 1st has been one of the warmest too. Today, Earth Day at Dix Park, we're looking at temperatures in the low 80s in the afternoon, and we'll be in the 70s throughout the evening with scattered storms. We'll be looking at those chances hour by hour with Futurecast throughout the day.
SpaceX, meantime, launched a rocket from Florida's Cape Canaveral last night, and some of you saw it from here in North Carolina. These are viewer pictures sent into our WRAL newsroom. We first told you about this during yesterday morning's news at 9. Our meteorologists say despite the less than ideal trajectory on that launch, we still were able to see it because it happened just an hour after sunset. If you have any pictures from last night's launch, you can send them along to us at WRAL.com/report it. I didn't see it.
I didn't either.
But I saw some of the comets that are, or not the meteors that are happening right now during this current meteor shower that's happening.
But all the pictures got
Neat.
a good defined trail there, right?
Yeah.
That looks so cool. This is a live look at Lake Gaston, and you can see the clouds building there. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with when the clouds will be bringing us rain.
Looking at most likely late afternoon into the evening. So that's why we have a WRAL weather alert day. It could affect your evening commute. I would recommend getting out maybe a little bit earlier if you can get to where you're going, 4:30, 5:30. You may be okay. Already starting to pick up some of the rain, though, on dual Doppler 5000 radar, mainly north of the Triad, but all of that will start to slide eastward and first off affect folks that are along and north of the I-85 corridor. In Fayetteville, we're seeing cloudy skies. It's becoming a bit grayer in Apex and Raleigh, as well as Chapel Hill. So those clouds are definitely thickening up ahead of this system, which is our next weather maker. It'll move in, and then it's going to just camp out and hang out with us for a while. This won't actually move out until late Saturday. So we're going to see this where we'll end up with some storms developing along this front, mainly in the afternoon and evening. Some of those may be slow moving because there's not anything pushing it along as this front ends up being stalled. So here it is. You can see where we are, some of that rain across parts of the mountains and on up into Virginia. Futurecast shows some of that rain starting to drop in on us by the time we get to 3 o'clock, but it's likely to be pretty isolated, a bit more widespread by 5, but mainly from Raleigh northward and westward. As we get into 7 and 8 o'clock, then it really starts to spread across the triangle and then down to the south and east. You can see that line from Rocky Mount to Goldsboro to Fayetteville to Clinton, and it may actually hang around for most of the night. I don't think that we'll still see rain during the morning commute tomorrow, but the roads may still be wet because some of that rain may linger into the early morning hours. It should be on the dry side at lunchtime, but I think overall tomorrow will feel more cloudy than today did. And then late in the evening, we may end up with some scattered showers and thunderstorms, especially in our southern counties. Right now, we don't have any threats for severe weather from the Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow or the rest of the week like we do today. Today we have that level 1 risk, which just means there are just a few storms that could produce wind damage. It won't be widespread, but a low wind and hail threat and almost a minimal to 0 tornado to flood threat out of this, at least for today. Now, we may continue to see rain that falls in the same place over and over for the next several afternoons, and at some point we might see some minor flooding in places that flood fairly often. The question is, tonight, do you go for the tailgating? Take along an umbrella, download our WRAL app, and just kind of watch as we go. We definitely have the chance, especially once we get closer to 7 and 8 o'clock, for there to be some thunderstorms. But if you're going to be out there fairly early, you might be okay. 60% chance on Saturday. Saturday will bring us the best chance of rain with a cold front. That will push all this moisture out, change of our pattern, and bring us a better chance for some sunshine Sunday and Monday. Look at this. So all the way through Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we continue to see that band just sitting there producing showers. showers. How much will we see? Anywhere from 3/4 to an inch, but there'll likely be pockets where it's heavier, especially in our southern counties. Temperatures upper 70s to low 80s through Saturday, and some really delightful looking air for Sunday and Monday.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Rescue reunion. A boy lost in the wilderness is found by an unexpected hero.
I just look at a miracle and I'm never going to forget it. So I'm living that every day.
And look at this, the reunion between a 2-year-old boy and his 4-legged hero.
We are following some breaking news out of Raleigh. Sky 5 over a scene. I-40 and Rock Quarry Road. You see the investigation surrounding this car here, working to figure out what's going on here. There are about 6 or 7 Raleigh police officers on scene. Again, this is I-40 by Rock Quarry Road. We'll have more on what exactly is going on coming up at 4 o'clock.
All right, Michelle, thanks for that. We're wrapping things up.